But there's another piece to this, which is the inclusive society. How do we make sure that everyone can participate? It wouldn't be enough if you just had a few people involved in the innovative economy, living in creative places. How do we make sure that neighborhoods are connected to regions so there's a common ground here? Again, this is why education is so important. Many of the discussions this morning talked about closing a divide, not only the achievement gap, but making sure that everyone is involved. And how do you bridge social capital? How do you make sure that this social capital is connected? So education and training is important, but also bridging the digital divide that we have in this country, and to make sure that everyone has access to the internet and can use it, making sure that we have neighborhoods that are connected. Now, what are the implications of the different models of economic development? Well, some states that I've worked in, I worked in Florida, I've worked in Arizona, they thought that they could make it just on population, just by growing fast. And I got to tell you that population growth doesn't work. There were times in places like that where they were adding more people, but their per capita income actually went down because they weren't developing their economy. So it was the veneer but it led to boom and bust. Today, they're not doing well because they were all part of the housing boom. So that doesn't do it. Now, some people think the answer is cost, just by providing low cost. And a lot of the southern states got into this. Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana said, just come on down, we'll give you low-cost labor. We'll give you tax breaks. But the problem is, the companies that go there, the textile and others, they came from the Northeast, they didn't stay very long, and then they went to Asia. They don't have to stay. There was nothing that bolted them down. Sometimes I think the economic development strategy in Kentucky has had that feel to it. So like, we're cheaper than other places, but that's not an innovation-based economy. You're not going to win over the long term with that type of economy, and your wages are going to go down. Commodities. In the Midwest, we've worked in states like Nebraska and Iowa and places like that, and I think, well, we have these commodities, corn and grain and all the rest, and we can make it on that. Well, the problem with that is you're totally at the whim of the price of commodities. Sometimes they go up, sometimes they go down, but you have no connection to what you want to be, which is a sustained economy. An innovation-based economy where real value is created based on product differentiation, increasing productivity, and being connected to global markets is the only model, I would argue, for rising standard of living and increasing income mobility and diversification. So the innovative economy based on a livable community, because you want to have good creative people there, and inclusion to make sure that everyone is there. How do you do that? Well, the final part of this is collaborative governance. Probably the most difficult challenge that we have today, because we have increasing fragmentation of local government. It's left over from an earlier era. We have cities and counties that probably don't make sense if we were to design them today. We have problems with connecting our land use, transportation, and housing because they're separate systems. We have very few places that have developed effective regional strategies with local implementation, which is the goal. And I would argue that there's a role here for business, because business can be an overarching theme to try to pull together business and government and collaborate. Getting back to that notion of that new civic leadership, we need to have everybody involved in building these regional collaborative mechanisms to pull all this together. And there's some options. Sometimes we talk about consolidating government. That's an option. Sometimes we talk about coordinating. But in the end, I think we have to focus on collaboration. Now, one of the groups that I've been active in for the last several years is a group called Joint Venture Silicon Valley, where we brought together 30 local governments, 100 businesses, all of our major universities to deal with our economic challenges. And there we go through cycles. We grew in the 80s, and then we had the boom bust cycle with the dot-com, and again, we have economic cycles like everyone else. And the motto of this organization, which is now in existence for over 10, 15 years, is we are a community collaborating to compete globally. That we come together to solve problems together by working as a team across issues. And education, we've taken on issues of education. We've talked about how to make sure the internet is available to everyone. We're working now on healthcare issues. It's a new model of collaboration based on civic entrepreneurship. So in the end, the lessons are that to have an innovative economy, we need to have not only a strong economic base, we need to worry about a livable community, inclusive society, and collaborative governance. And right at the middle of that is regional stewardship that promotes the connections between the economy the environment, equity through engagement. So you can see it's an integrated model. By coming together, when I see communities that are doing all these things, I usually see prosperity. When I don't see them connected, I see fragmentation. The role of regional stewardship is at the intersection of these four conversations. They connect the dots. They are the boundary crossers and the integrators, the ones that see the needs and put the pieces together. And they also understand that the most important issue is also preparing the next generation of regional stewards. Regional stewards create the civic capital, or the glue that helps connect communities. And the civic capital is the foundation required for collaborative problem solving. It also results from a dialogue that creates the essential trust that's required for the different groups to come together towards a shared vision. So it is, in the end, this civic leadership, this civic engagement, this civic involvement that creates the social capital that's essential for economic prosperity. So the two are absolutely, absolutely connected.